Hello everyone, this is Raj, and in the previous video we have talked about how we can use middleware as a Morgan and how we can implement Cloud Firestore as a APIs in as a database in our route, let's say for the projects. So now I'll talk about MongoDB database, like how we can use MongoDB database in Node.js. So I have created a route for the users, like we have APIs like API slash v1 slash users to get all the users data, and this one is for specific user data whose ID is this one, and this one is for adding a users, and this one is for the updating, and this one is for the delete. So we have defined the simple things like if we are calling this API, so we are getting this particular data, so we have a success is equal to true and with all the users. And this one is for single user details, so we have a single user details, and this one is for adding a data, and this one is for updating a data, and then last is for deleting a data. So we have created this particular route in the routes folder. So what I'll do here, we have index.js file. So I will load this file, a route users file. So I'll just remove here, we have a users, and then we have router, and then we have a users. So I'll call this route here, and then we'll replace projects to users. Okay. Okay, so now we have created API. So I'll go to the Postman, and then we'll click on the plus symbol, and then what will be the request. So I'll just copy the request here from the project, and I will pass the request here. So I'll select get request, and then the API path will be users. So this will be the users details. So I'll click on this particular API, and this will give you the all users information. And the next one is for this one is for get all users, and then this one is for get single users. So I'll write here first user slash, here you can pass the ID. So let's say I'm passing this particular ID, and this will call single user data whose ID this one. And the next APIs is for users slash ID. For example, I want to add a data, so we will use slash users, and the request will be post request, and then we'll go to the body, and then we have a raw, and then we have a JSON, and here we can pass the user. So let's say I'll pass first user info as a name, so we are passing the name as a user1, and then here we have an email, and you can mention the email, let's say email user1@gmail.com. Okay, so this is the user information, so I'm sending this email informations with the help of post APIs, and then we will send data and user edit. The next request is for updating, so we will copy this path, and this will paste it here. Here we can pass the user ID, so I'll pass the user ID here, and then we will update. So we need to use put request, and then body, the raw, and here we can pass the updated data. So let's say I want to change, so here I want to change the username, so here we can pass user1. Okay, so we have added this user1, so I will want to update user, so you can do that. So I'll just call the API and user updated. So I'll call another one request for the delete, so I'll paste, and then we'll go to the delete part. So here we have a delete request, and then we'll call this API, so user remove. So now we have created simple route for the users, and then we have added this route in the index.js file. So now I'll show you how we can implement MongoDB database. So first I'll go to the website for the MongoDB database. So we have a website mongodb.com, and here you need to create your account. So I have already created my accounts, so I'll click on login with Google and have moved to the dashboard. And right now I have created a cluster, so you can create a cluster. So you need to click on you can cancel this one, and there is a button create new clusters, so you can create a cluster. And if you can select the provider, so like let's say AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, you can select anyone, and you can create a database in free. You can create one free clusters. So I have already created a cluster. So this is my cluster name is B2 Bootcamp. The next part, like after creating a cluster, you need to go to the database access, and here you need to create add user. So here you have to select this one, and here you need to define the username and the password, and then this will be the by default details, and click on add user, and this will be the user for this particular data who can access the data. Okay, and then you need to go to the network request, and this is a network request, and here we have a section for add IP, so you can add a IP. So I'll suggest you to you can add public IP, you can add your system IP. It's totally up to you. Now I have added public IP, so I suggest you to add a public IP. And yeah, this thing is done. Like now in how you can connect the data with cloud, that particular database. So what you'll do, you can go to the cluster. So we have a cluster. So I'll click on the connect button, and there will be a pop-up. So you can connect your MongoDB database in three ways. Like either first you can use Mongo shell. Second one is you can work on a Node.js. So you can connect your application with the help of Node.js as a MongoDB, and then you can install MongoDB Compass. So this is a MongoDB Compass. So this is a URL. You can download this MongoDB Compass, and then there will be a URL. So you just need to copy this URL and then pass your password, and this you can do that. So I have MongoDB Compass installed in my system. So I'll just pass the URL, and this is a URL. I'll just copy this URL from here, and I will edit my password, and this is my password. Okay, so now I'll click on the connect button, and then this MongoDB database is connected, so I can access this particular database. So right now we have a three database. So first one is admin database, second one is config, and then we have a local. So like inside this data, you can create a collection. So let's say I want to create a database. So here you can create a database, and here you can define the collections. So I'll show you later. So we have installed MongoDB Compass, and we have connected our database with a particular string, and here we have passed this URL password. Okay, so next part, right now we want to implement MongoDB in Node.js. So what I'll do, I'll just go to the second part, connect your application, and then here you need to select Node.js, and then I suggest you to recommended version is 2.2 or later, and this will be the string. You just need to copy this string, and you need to install Mongoose as a npm module. So this is a Mongoose npm module you just need to install for accessing a MongoDB database. So this is a client, so I'll just copy, and I'll go to the VS Code editor, and I will install Mongoose. So I will install in my current directory. Okay, so Mongoose is installed. So now what I'll do, I'll go to the config file. Here we will create a file, let's say db.js. Okay, and here we will import MongoDB database Mongoose as an npm module. So I'll just copy as a required as a keyword, and then here we'll write const Mongoose is equal to require, and then we have a Mongoose. Okay, and then you need to import here we have a config file. So here you can pass the URL, let's say mongo underscore URI. Okay, here you can get this URL. So you just need to go to the website of MongoDB, and then here we have a URL. So you just need to copy this URL and then replace your password. So I have my own URL, so I'll just copy the URL here, and I will paste here. Okay, so this is a URL, and then here you have a this one. Okay, so now I have a database name. So this is a database name, bootcamp data. So I'll save, and then we have a db.js. So we need to use this environment variable in this particular db file. So what I'll do, I'll just import env file. So we have a .env. I will paste it here, and then same thing like first one is we need to use the config file, and then here we need to pass this one. So URL path will be dot configs at config slash. Yeah, this one is right. Now we need to write a logic for connecting a database. So first I'll create a function. So I'll create a function's name is const connect db, or cname small is equal to, and this will create a arrow functions, and this we can create this function as a asynchronous. You just need to use async as a method, and then here we can define const connection is equal to await, and then we have a mongoose. Inside mongoose we have a connect, and then here you need to pass two things. Like first one is the URL. So how can I access this particular URL? So here you need to write process dot env dot the variable name. So my variable name is mongo URL. So I'll just copy and I will paste it here. And the next part here you need to pass the object. So how you can get the data? So here we have a documentation. So if you can go to the mongoose documentation, so we have a mongoose documentations. Like first we have a await, and then mongoose dot connect, and here we have a URL, and then we have a parameter. So I'll just copy this parameter and I will paste it here. Okay, so this is the by default object. So if this particular logic is connected, then okay, and then if we are getting any issues, so we can handle with the catch block, and here we can get the error. So here we can print the error. Okay, now like if the MongoDB database is connected, so here we can write console.log, and here we can print the message. Let's say MongoDB is connected, and you can pass the URL. Let's say here write connection dot maybe here you can pass connection dot host. I'll think, yeah, host. Okay, so next part, like we have created this in functions, so we can use this function or JavaScript file as a module. So we'll write module dot export is equal to, and then here you can type connect. Okay, now this is a simple logic for connecting a MongoDB database. So I'll save, and then we'll go to the index file, and we will import this db file. So I'll write const, and then here we'll write connect db require, and then inside require. So I'll just copy this one, and then here we have a path config. Inside config we have a db. Okay, so we have a db file, and then we need to call this database. So I'll write here connect db function. Okay, so now I'll just close this terminal, and then here we are getting this data. So like MongoDB database is connected with bootcamp data. So this is how we can connect a database. So again, I'll repeat the step. First you need to go to the website MongoDB, and then you need to create an account, and then after creating an account you need to create a cluster. So you can create a clusters by click on create new cluster, and then you need to go to the database access, and then you need to create a user with the password and username, and then here you need to go to the network access, and then apply network access for the public IPs, and then you can go to the clusters again, and then you can connect your MongoDB database in three ways. First one is you can connect your MongoDB with database with Mongo shell, or you can use Node.js application for connecting your MongoDB database, or the third one is MongoDB Compass. So I shared the third one is MongoDB Compass. So you can download the Compass, and this is a URL, and you can pass the URL, and then you will be able to see the database. Okay, and the second one is we are working on Node.js. So we have selected Node.js, and then we have a version 2.2, and this is a URL. So I'll just copy the URL, and I will pass this URL in config file, and then replace the password. So this is my password. And then we have created we install mongoose. So after installing mongoose, then we have a connections related logic, and then we have import this one file. Okay, now Now we need to add a data. Now we need to use Now I want to use MongoDB database for the route users. So what I'll do, I'll just go to the root directory. I will create a folder model. So you can add it, use it MongoDB database. First you need to define the model. So I have created a folder. Inside folder we have a model. Let's say this one is for the users. So I'll write users.js and U capital for the model. Okay. So now first we need to import MongoDB. So I'll just go import the MongoDB in the users name model. And then here we can create a function. So let's say function const, let's say talk, or maybe this one is users schema is equal to new mongoose dot schema, and inside here you can pass this JavaScript object, and here you can define the fields. So let's say I'll pass username, so username, and what would be the type? So the type will be the string. So here we can pass the string, and then here you can pass require. So I'll just copy this one require, and here you can pass like require is equal to true. So if it is required, so you can pass like please add name, and then you can pass unique UNIQ U, copy UE unique. So here you can pass unique is equal to false, so unique value will be false, and then you can define the max length. So max length will be, let's say 50, and if it is not 50, so here you can pass length cannot be more than 50. Okay, so this is the first key we are passing, and this is another key. So we are passing another key is for user email. So here we have an email, and then type is equal to requires equal to true, and then unique, here you can pass the unique value. So here we can pass true, and the length of the email will be maybe 80, and then so here we have created a schema for the user, like we will add the data in the MongoDB database having a two fields like name and email. Now we will module export this module. So first write module dot exports is equal to, here you need to write mongo dot model, and then here you need to pass like users as a schemas, and then here you need to pass this schema. Okay, so we have created this particular schema. So now we can use this schema in users, like we have a routes, inside we have a users. So we will import this schema. So I'll just copy this logic and I will paste, and here we can mention users, and here we can pass the URL. So I'll go to the dot slash dot slash, maybe here you can access a model, and then we have a model for users. So here this is how we can do that. Now we have added the user schema, so I'll write a logic for adding a data into the MongoDB database. So now for adding a data into the MongoDB database, first we need to implement async await. So here what I'll do, here will write async, and async, if you are working on async await, so we will need to use try catch block. So we have a try catch block, and inside try catch block we can write a logic. So first we will write await, and then we have a talks as users as a schema. So we have a users as a schema, and then for adding a data, so we will add call insert, or you can use create, and inside create you can pass this data. Okay, so MongoDB database, this will add the data, and this will give you the data. So this will give you the user. Okay, once the user will be added, user will be created in the database, and then this will give you the user, and here you can pass the response. Okay, so my response is success is equal to true, and then here you can pass the user. So this is how we can implement the logic. and here I'll just format this document. So we have a try and catch block. So now we have a catch block. If there is any issue, so we can handle with the error in the catch block. And then here we will pass 4400, and then here we can pass the message, and message is equal to error. Okay, so this is a simple logic for adding a data into MongoDB database. And as a user, so we have to use create as a method. So I'll go to the postman, and then we'll call this API user1, and then we'll click on send data, and then this will say this is the ID is generated by the MongoDB database by default. This is a alphanumeric ID, and I'll go to the MongoDB, and then what I'll do, I'll just reload the database. Now we have a 3 database, and after refreshing we'll get 4 data. So this one is bootcamp database. So I'll just click on this particular button, and then we have a users as a collections. Inside users we have a data. So we have a user1, and then we have a user2, user1 email. So we can pass another user, let's say user2, and this is a user2 email ID, and then call the APIs once again, and this data is added. So I'll just refresh the UI, and then we have a 2 documents inside user as a collections. Okay, so now I'll add a logic for getting all the data. So similarly here we need to use async. So here we'll write async, and whenever we are using async we have to use try catch block. So we have a try catch block as a syntax. So here we have a try catch block as a syntax. So I'll just write a logic. So we have a first await, and then we have a users as a schema, and then we have a method find, and with the help of find method it will give you the list of users. So here we can store users is equal to here, and then here we will pass this users here. Okay, and here we will store this one part. And if I'm facing any issue, so error, we can handle with the same syntax. So here we have the same syntax. Okay, so I'll save, and then I will go to the postman, and then I will hit the API for get all users. So I'll call the APIs, and then we are getting the data. So this is data is working. Now we have to get the data from specific users. So what I'll do here, I'll just comment this logic. Yeah, I'll comment, or you can write async again. This is a async, and here we can write a logic. So here we have a first we have a try catch. So here we have a try catch. Here we will write await, and then we have a users as a schemas, and inside user we have a find by ID. So here find by ID, and here you can pass the ID. So how you can get the ID? Request dot params dot ID. So here we will pass the ID, and this will give you the user info. So I'll store let user is equal to, okay. So here we are getting the response. So I'll just cut and I will paste it here, and here we have a data about the user. So here we'll write user, that's it. So we will print this user here. And if you are facing any issue, so we can handle with the help of catch block. So here we have an error. Okay, so I'll save, and then I'll this one, I'll go to the VS Code postman, and then for example I want to collect the data from this particular document. So I'll call the API, and here we will pass the URL ID, the doc ID, and then we'll call, and then here we have a data of this particular doc ID, and this is the details. So now next one is for updating the docs or updating the document. So here we have a logic. So first we'll write async. So here we'll write async, and then if I'm working on async, so first we need to use try catch block. So here we will implement the logic for try catch block. So right, so try catch, and then for first we need to use await, and then we have a users as a schema, and inside a schema we have a function find id and update. I think, yeah, find id and update, and here you need to pass the id first. So which data you need to update, so this is the id, and then here you need to pass the data to update, so this is the data to update, and then here you need to pass the javascript object having new is equal to true, and the second one is part null validation or run validation is equal to true validators. Okay, so this is a by default syntax, like if the user that like talks is updated, so here we can get the data. So here we have a user, okay, and then here we can print the data. So here we'll pass talks updated, or it's totally up to you. You can pass not talks, here you can pass the user. Okay, user is updated, then you can pass the user, and the error, so syntax will be same, and here you can pass the syntax. Okay, so I have added the logic, so I'll go to the postman, and then this is a this one, and here we have a put request, and then here we will pass the id, so this is the doc id, and here I'm passing user1 to user1 as a word. So here we'll get the data. Yeah, so user is updated, user1 email id, and then user1 to word1. Okay, so next we will write a logic for removing a data. So how we can remove the data, first we have to use async. So here we have a async, and then here first we have to use try catch block. So here we'll write try catch. So we have a try catch block, and then first we have await, and then we have users as a schema. Inside we have a find, and then we have a find id by delete or something, yeah, and here you need to pass the id. So here we have a doc id, this one, and this will give you the user to talk or user. Okay, so if the user is successfully removed, so here you can pass this one here. Okay, so user removed, and yeah, you can remove this one, and you can also remove this one, user removed. And if there is any issue, so we can handle with the here the data. Okay, so now I'll save, and then we'll call the API. So we have a user ID, so I'll just copy the URL, and I will go to the API for the delete request, and then I'll call, and then user remove. So I'll call the API for getting all the users. So we have right now one user only because we have removed the user one. So this is how we can implement the APIs with the MongoDB. So first we have install the MongoDB, config the MongoDB, install Mongos, and then we have created module, and then these all are the queries. So you can create a REST APIs with the help of MongoDB database. And yeah, that's all from my end. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.